Hey everybody, and welcome to the second episode of the Premodern Showdown Series 3. I'm Michael Hype. I'm joined tonight by Flint Espel. Say hi, Flint.
Hi, everybody.
All right, I have uh, the schedule up. We are looking at our Thursday matches. First one will be between John Grudzina and Ben Pelcyger. So I won't hesitate. We will jump over to the ban screens. So this will let us know what decks that are were chosen by the players, and then what decks are not available. So John's three decks that he's brought to the Showdown series are Survival Elves, Star Spangled Slaughter, and Prison Oath. And then Ben has Survival Elves, uh, Death and Taxes, though Rebel Stacks might be a more accurate description, and then Zombies. So both players have banned each other's Survival Elves deck. So they're kind of looking at two decks. Is there anything that like really stands out here of like is there a matchup you think one player is trying to avoid, or do you think it's kind of 50-50 no matter which way they put it?
I think Ben definitely wants to avoid the Prison Oath matchup. I think it's just bad for both of his decks. I'm guessing that um, John may go that route, but it's interesting that both the Elves decks got banned.
Yeah. All right, so let's go over to look at our decks for the players. So John has selected to play the Star Spangled Slaughter, which is a little bit surprising to me because I did have the same impression that I thought the Prison Oath deck seemed like it had a favorable matchup for both of Ben's options. So it'll be interesting to see what John's thought process was. But going on this deck, do you want to talk briefly about what this deck does?
Sure, yeah, it's a pretty classic tempo deck. It's a deck that Remy will that I'm sorry, Remy, if I'm not saying your last name correctly. Has been fine tuning and tinkering with. It's a list that we picked up a couple months ago, and I lucked out and dodged a lot of wasteland decks and mostly ran up against creature decks and was able to take down the monthly with. You got to play pretty tightly with this. You don't have a whole lot of card advantage, with the exception of the predicts. And for me, at least when I played, um, Meddling Mage was an all-star. It does have a lot of answers, which is why it's often called the solution as well. I'm not going to get into a discussion of semantics here. I don't really care. It's a tempo deck. It's fun to play, and it's got fairly decent matchups against a lot of the decks out there.
Yeah, definitely an all around. It kind of has a similar feeling to the Rock in some sense, where it doesn't really
Yeah.
have terrible matchups, and it doesn't really have any stellar matchups in some senses. But let's move over to the deck that Ben is playing, and it is his own pre-modern Death and Taxes or Rebel Stacks. I think the naming, I think Rebel Stacks actually might be a more accurate description. But anyways, what this deck is trying to do is it has a Rebel package with Ramosian Sergeant and Lin Civi. There's some Whip Quarters as a target, Defiant Falcon, and then there's actually a Ramosian Lieutenant, which is not as often that I've seen in pre-modern, but there's one Defiant Falcon and two of the lieutenants, and the lieutenant's a 2 mana 1/2 that can search. And so I guess the value of having that second point of toughness is what Ben was looking for. Because other than that, I think Defiant Falcon is just better. But the other component of this deck is it has a prison element. So there's Force Sphere Resistance, there's Tangle Wires, and then there's a lot of one ofs like Smokestack or Curse Scroll. There's Mox Diamonds to kind of get ahead of the game, and then there's an Enlightened Tutor to kind of tie that package together. But what this deck is really looking to do is kind of have a soft lock on the opponent's sphere resistance, tie up their mana with Rishadan Port, maybe get a Wasteland in there. There's only one copy. But try and get a position where the opponent's kind of struggling to do their thing, and then kind of eke out advantage with like the rebel mechanic of being able to search things up. So the one thing that's pretty good, the disruption package I like in this deck. The one problem or the one fault I guess with this deck is it's not able to close out a game very quickly. So the opponent's deck is going to have a chance to draw out of it. You're not just going to be like, okay, I'm going to close the door with a big, powerful threat and give them a few turns and then just kill them. You're just going to be hitting them with little 1/1s and try and nickel and dime them. So we'll see how that goes. It'll be interesting to see how this lines up against the blue-white-red deck that John has. But I will move over to some of the cards that I anticipate being the most important ones. Here, let me reload this, as it looks like I have the one from last earlier this week. So let me pull up this matches real quick, and here we are. Okay, that looks a little bit better. So what I anticipate for the key cards for the Star Spangled Slaughter deck is just kind of the removal pieces. If you're able to take out the threats and then kind of bide the time there, I think you'll be able to draw out of the disruption for that the Rebel deck presents. So I think Lightning Bolt and Swords of Plowshares are the key cards. Swords of Plowshares also is in the Death and Taxes deck, and it could be pretty important to remove if a Lightning Angel does come down or a Meddling Mage to slow the clock, though there is Mother of Runes to kind of prevent that from happening. But over from the Death and Taxes side, I would say Sphere Resistance and Rishon Import. I think like the Prison Element could give the Rebel deck some time, and also because the Star Spangled Slaughter deck is a 3-color deck, it is vulnerable to some forms of disruption, and Rishon Import might be able to keep him off a 3rd color for long enough that Ben might be able to close out a game. So I wasn't exactly sure. This is not a matchup that I'm very experienced in. Do you have any intuition that you might think differently, or are you thinking the same thing, Flint?
Yeah, I think that all makes sense for sure. It's Meddling Mage is a really interesting card in this match because Ben doesn't cast so many of his spells, but it's certainly good against some of the prison elements, I would say.
Yep. All right. So if you want to let our players know that they can get started, do you know who won the die roll?
I do not.
All right. Well, we have our players. I'm counting cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I guess I should switch this around. And
Looks like Ben's got 6.
it does. Okay, so it looks like Ben is on a mulligan, and then John is on a full 7. I want to thank two standard. Is it two standard EV? I always read it as two standard deviation, but thank you for the subscription. 5 months in a row. Appreciate that. Maybe it's not in a row, but either way, 5 months total. Okay, 2 standard deviations. All right, then my intuition was correct.
Excellent.
Okay, so we see a first turn Mox Diamond, and then a Mishra's Factory, which leads with a Sphere Resistance. So right out of the gates, Ben is able to have a disruptive element and is already ahead on mana with the Mox Diamond.
Seems good.
Let me bring up Sphere of Resistance. So yeah, cards like Portent and Fire Ice and Predict and even like Memory Lapse are a lot clunkier with this Sphere in play. The Star Spangled Slaughter deck does have a few ways to answer it in the main deck. I think Disenchant is the one that is there, and Absolute GP. Thank you for the follow. But so I think some of those smoothing elements in the red white blue deck do get a lot clunkier when there's a Sphere Resistance in play.
Mm-hmm.
So Ben used his second turn to just chip away at John's life total with activating the Mishra's Factory. So here we see a 2-mana Portent on John. So
Chooses to portent himself.
yeah,
No awkward portents for you yet, Mike, but
yep.
the series is young. We shall see.
Yeah, I wonder how many decks do we have that have Portent, and then maybe we should keep a track, or maybe we should
At least 3.
maybe we should make a prediction of how many will happen over the course of the season. Ooh, I do want to. Sorry, real quick. I was gonna get the try and get the prediction going. I should be able to do, and I did see a way to try and do it with channel points. So let me see if I can do that real quick. All right, start a prediction. Who will?
So while you're doing that, jump in here. So Ben's tapping 3 here, and we're gonna see it's a little blurry. Is that a falcon?
Yes, it looks
Looks like
like
it is.
it. Okay. So I should have the prediction up of who will win the match. You can bet your channel points and then try and get ahead of the game. I haven't really set up any rewards for the channel points yet, but I think that might be something that might be in the works. Let me bring up Defiant Falcon. So if you're not familiar with this Rebel mechanic, the lower converted mana cost creatures can always pay mana to find one that's converted mana cost +1. I think of what theirs is. So you're always building up to a bigger and bigger converted mana cost, and so it starts at 1, then goes up to 2, then goes up to 3, and Ben doesn't have anything beyond 3, I don't think so. So we see a Fire Ice that was taking out the Defiant Falcon.
Little Lin Civi there as a follow-up from Ben.
Yep. Might have been what he had fetched with the Defiant Falcon instead, but I guess he'll have to play the one from his hand.
John's got to be a little careful here because if the rebels start to run away in card advantage, it's going to be hard for John to recover. You know, he certainly has threats like the angel that he just played face down as a morph, but Ben does rock swords to plowshares in his main deck, so higher likelihood he can deal with a card like that.
Yeah,
He's
but
not spending it on other things.
so if he doesn't have a Swords of Plowshares, he has Lin Civi that he could get Whip Quarter. So I would anticipate, but I mean, I don't think that's like a permanent answer, given how much removal is in John's deck. That we'll see a Fire Ice, so we'll see a Bolt, we'll see a Swords take out a Whip Quarter, and then the Exalted Angel would start connecting.
So he does elect to swing in with the factory here. So can he tutor for the Whip Quarter?
Yes, Lin Civi is just the.
Is it just X?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so John's still at 8. Oh, I'm looking at the life totals backwards. So is John at 14?
John's at 14.
Okay. All right.
So he does swing in and he does morph and gain the life.
All right. So this is big life total swings here. So
yeah, back up to 18, and now Ben's at 15.
Okay.
But here comes Whip Quarter. I have to assume that John has a lightning bolt or swords to deal with that Whip Quarter. He should pretty much know it's coming at this point. You'd be surprised how many games you're playing this red, white, and blue list where you actually end up naming swords, even though it's in your own list.
Yeah, that's an awkward situation. But I guess usually in those spots you're doing it, you either have like in the spot where well, I don't know if you do it in this exact spot, but you have a board advantage or something like an Exalted Angel you just don't want to die.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. The mage helps you ride out the angel to victory, especially if it's your opponent's only way of interacting with your creatures. It's very, very good.
Which a lot of decks it is. There's not many decks that have a ton of removal spells, and Swords is usually one of the first ones. So.
All right, so it looks like Ben's passing the turn here, and John is end of turn fetching. So I guess we're going to see maybe a swords here.
Yeah, I can't think of any. I don't think there's any other. It could be a bolt.
Could be a bolt. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess it's not. He just doesn't want to draw another land.
Okay. The old thin deck strategy. Got to show off those guru lands.
Yes, they're very, very
God.
nice.
So nice. Oh, someone say potato. Andy Culpepper, the Spud Master himself, chiming in.
Yeah.
So Lightning Angel here, I'm guessing 5 mana. And
Yep.
there she is. So, yep, Exalted gets tapped and looks like 3 in, dropping Ben down to 11.
Okay. Yeah, from this spot, I guess if Linsevi's able to get another whip quarter, but then like each turn, it's hard for Ben to pull ahead here. Like I guess he can keep parity for a while, but yeah, it ties up his mana if he's got to use the whip quarters, and then it's kind of like how does he break this standstill kind of thing? I don't know.
So it's 1 to activate. So he can still tap down both and swing in with Lynn Civy and a Mishra's Factory. But oh, there's a bolt. Okay, so John takes 2 for
Yeah.
Double City, going to 13. And he bolts Lynn Civy.
Yes, it looks like it. So after Ben activated Lincivi and went and got Whip Quarter, then he used his priority to kill the Lincivi.
John's deck makes me think of Moana. Shiny.
Yes, I'll have
I
that
love
song stuck in my head,
it.
but I'll save it for one from me singing. So
Some of the folks in the pre-modern community just have, insane collections. You think that, you have a decent collection, and then you see, the folks who have all the old school cards, the folks who have all the rare promo foils, and it's so impressive. So cool.
yeah,
Mm.
3 times today. I guess I had a
Oh,
phase. Yeah, my daughter would watch it. I think usually like 2 times a day, but I feel like she's not been watching movies nearly as much as she used to. It's a lot more YouTube content.
uh-oh.
Yeah. Unfortunately, she's not a fan of my channel, so
Oh, I was gonna say, well, good thing you're putting out all this amazing content,
yeah.
keeping her busy.
Yeah.
All right, so what's going on here? So it looks like it was a double tap there from Ben, and now he's untapped and let's see. Okay, he's just gonna swing with the factory.
Okay.
11 all.
Yeah.
11-11.
uh yeah, but I mean I still, even from this position, I don't know if like if nothing changes, then I guess Ben is winning, but it just seems like there are so many situations, like if John just draws a swords or a bolt or lightning angel or exalted angel or mother of runes, like all those are like really good cards. Fire ice, there's so many good cards that John can draw, and I think then the texture of this game really changes, and I think it kind of swings into John's favor. Like especially if that exalted angel ever starts connecting, then a lot of this work that Ben has spent multiple turns doing is just undone.
I agree. John, as chat rightly notes, is flooding out. I mean, those are a lot of lands for this deck. And even though he only needs a swords or a bolt or a fire ice to break parity, there is a likelihood that Ben is sandbagging a swords in his hand, given that he has a bit of a board presence. You could make the argument that maybe he just wants to close. He could close the game out, but I don't know how much it would increase his clock to attack with a whip quarter instead of tap.
Yeah, and if Ben does get John low enough, then a card like Rishon Import might come into play, where he's just able to tap a city brass all the time
Yeah.
and add an extra point, like kind of convert his mana into an extra damage. But again, that can kind of all fall apart if this Exalted Angel ends up getting through at some point.
Is it a falcon? It's a
I
little
think it's
blurry.
I think it's Ramosian Sergeant.
Okay.
No, that one
Memory
got
lapse
memory
there.
lapse. So so yeah, I think John is pretty happy just using the memory lapse on like anything at this point. Like it just gives him more time to draw stuff.
Uh-oh. Angel number 2? Yep.
Yes.
Ooh, that vigilance is so good too. So Ben with 2 conspicuously untapped planes over there. Yep. Gonna use those, and John's gonna get in for 3 here.
Hmm.
So we still got ourselves a game, folks.
So I need to reduce John's to 7. So yeah, if it's yeah, I just updated. Sorry about that. So yeah, because this 3/4 just shuts down. I mean, at some point you're going to be able to tap an angel, and then you could attack for 4. But so I guess yeah, actually that Ramosian Sergeant getting memory lapse there actually would make a big difference.
Yeah.
Though yeah, because it's kind of hard for Ben to. You could. Mm, I was gonna say you could tap down the angel and then attack for 2. Okay, that's looks what he's trying to do. Get in 2 damage now, and then you just tap the exalted angel, and then you're gonna take 6 on his next turn, and then you use your turn to tap the other 2 and attack for. But then you're only attacking for 3. So
Ooh, John's memory lapsing
okay,
again. Okay. I can say, having played the red, white, and blue deck, every game feels close, like really close.
sure.
I don't know if that was your experience when you played it.
Yes. All right. So here is an attack for 6, and Ben goes down to 2. Yeah, this is kind of like a spot where he needs because he needs basically needs to answer every creature now. Open here we
Whoa,
have
7 angel.
this is a
Oh
face up angel.
wow, what a top deck! What a top deck!
I mean, I don't know if he actually needed it, but it's nice insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what
Thanks, James. That's my intention.
I don't know. Yep, I think Ben
I
is
skip him.
dead. So yep, uh, that first game goes to John, and yeah, that was kind of like the thing we talked about is the initial disruption from Ben slows the opponent down, but when you're not able to close out a game, and I mean he was attacking for. I mean it's not like he passed up on any really opportunities to deal damage, but it's just the threats are not as powerful and do take a while. All right, so let's go over to the decks and maybe we can look at sideboarding and figure out if things are going to change. So a null is a card I could see coming in. There are a number of artifacts and enchantments, especially out of Ben's sideboard.
Mm.
Pyroclasm is a card that, yeah, is definitely reasonable. I mean, I guess like especially if whip quarters are like a plan that Ben needs to implement, then Pyroclasm's pretty effective. It's not like super. I guess everything dies other than like the Lin Civi, I think. So Pyroclasm
Pretty
seems pretty
good.
good.
Yeah.
The Disenchant could come in. Slice and Dice is reasonable. Uh, and then even like Dwarven Blast Miner is a possible card that could come in. Like so, I don't know exactly what John's uh, game plan is for sideboarding, but I think he has a lot of options in terms of how he wants to play it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that I would bring in the Anoles and the Pyroclasms for sure, and probably the Disenchant. And after that, I don't know if I would bring in the others. How many 1 toughness creatures are there in Ben's deck? Like, other than the Remosian Sergeant, is anything else 1 toughness?
Defiant
Falcon?
Falcon and Weathered Wayfarer, which I think there's just one copy
Okay.
of. But
It could be good. Could be
yeah,
good. Okay.
So on Ben's deck, Tormod's Crypt doesn't seem effective. Perish doesn't do anything. Shared Triumph is a card that could play an anthem for his. I don't know if you would name human or rebel. Let's see, like rebel hits everything but weathered wayfarer. So maybe he just names rebel.
What about contamination?
Yes. Well, so it seems like a way that you can just kind of win from a board state. Because so what the lock would be contamination, and then you have a rebel searcher in play, so that you're able to get up to Lin Civi, and Lin Civi can put rebels on the bottom. So once you have enough mana, you're always able to put like a Mosaic Sergeant on the bottom, and then search one out. So once you have, I guess that would be 4 mana because I think it's 3 to bottom, and it'd be 1 to search out. So once you get to that 4 mana, then you would just always keep them on black mana,
Mm-hmm.
and then you could win that way. I think that is a very reasonable way for Ben to try and win.
Yeah, I agree.
John does have a lot of interactions. Like he could just float white mana and disenchant then, or even if he like has a removal for like the one rebel in that spot, he could get out of it. But well, I guess I'd be even a card with like Mox Diamond. Well, I guess if you don't have enough creatures, the contamination is going to go away. But okay, other cards. I mean, I don't know if like this other Exalted Angel comes in. I don't know when this Eternal Dragon comes in, but those cards seem fine. John does not have manlands. I think with the 3-color mana base, he's just all devoted to trying to be able to cast the spells.
Sphere of Law would be pretty good.
I mean,
I don't know if it's necessary, but
it's
it
only
does.
it doesn't prevent him from dealing it to the creatures.
Oh, it doesn't. It's not any red
No,
source dealing damage.
I
It's
think
just to
it would
you.
deal damage to you. I think
Oh,
it
okay. Yeah,
prevent
never
2
mind.
of it. So yeah, so I think Ben's plan is uh, probably the contamination what he's going to try and go for, but it does seem like it's something that could be disrupted by John. So it's not just an easy path to victory. Okay,
I
looks like
kind of like Karmic Justice too.
yeah, I guess okay. Yeah, because that's whenever any permanent of yours is destroyed,
Yeah,
so that would include like any creatures.
creatures. Yeah.
So yeah, that could be a card, and that would help against like the anticipated pyroclasms or something that could come in. A good way to blow up a bunch of permanents from John. Yeah, I definitely like the Karmic Justice.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. You want me to let him know?
Yes. All right. So we'll have Ben on the play, and was he on the play again, or was he on the play the first one? I don't
Yeah, he
remember.
played the turn
Okay.
one sphere with the Mox Diamond.
Yeah, I knew his first turn, but I wasn't sure if that was after John had played a land or not.
Yeah. Then John just went Flooded Strand go after, and Ben took the play.
I guess he probably would have ported it for 1 mana rather than 2. But,
Probably.
all right, let's bring up contamination for those. Since we were talking about that from the sideboard.
Karmic Justice is non-creature apparently, so that's probably not coming in.
It's still.
Thanks,
I mean,
Sandy.
like, there's still a number of like disenchant effects that maybe is something.
Maybe.
Maybe not. I think that's probably just a card that you usually play against like Pernicious Deed or something. All right, we see a turn 1 Mother of Runes from John.
Go, go, mom. It's pretty good in this matchup, given Ben's removal options are pretty limited.
He does have a curse scroll that is eventually like with the Enlightened Tutor that is something that could take care of it. But yeah, like it blanks the Swords of Polishers that he would typically want to cast on Ben's cards. So John's got to decide whether he wants to attack with
going
his
for it.
other runes or not.
No fear.
I like it.
John was, I think, probably hoping for an island instead of a mountain there, just to kind of represent an annul if possible.
Sure. And so it'll be interesting to see. I mean, like, again, this is a game where Ben has an early sphere of resistance. He doesn't have the Mox Diamond to be like super far ahead on mana, but we'll see if he's able to kind of get anything in play that looks like a whip quarter.
Yeah, whip
So
quarter.
Ben has to take a damage to cast that thanks to Caves of Kolios. That is there's no black cards in his main deck. I think there's just sideboard cards. So with I think there's three of those, and then the Mox Diamond is how he plans on casting the contamination and the engineered plague and the I don't know if there are other or the parishes. So the black cards are just in the sideboard.
And we do stand turn bolt.
All right, so okay, John does have access to blue mana now. It's in the form of City of Brass, which there's only one Wasteland out of Ben, but I guess a card like Rich Import could tie up that blue mana still, if that
Sure.
is John's only blue source. Like the players are okay. Looks like they were going to their mouse, so mice, computer mice. So I wasn't sure if they were
Pieces.
yeah try to ask a question or something. But Mother
Yeah, I
Runes
don't
will
say anything.
Mother Runes is fearless coming in, and here we see a meddling mage. What
Ooh,
what
okay.
card would you name here? Maybe that's what they're.
Um,
Did they type and let you know what they named?
Swords to Plowshares, probably. Or maybe Curse Scroll. How many Curse Scroll does he
There's
have?
just
Two?
one, so
Oh,
I
I'd
think
probably name Swords.
you could name Enlightened Tutor. Um,
I guess it depends on what's in John's hand. I mean, he's not going to follow it up with an Angel next turn. Well, I guess he could play a Morph, right?
I don't know if you'd be that worried about like Swords to Plowshares if you have like a active Mother Runes.
Yeah, but it's just a way to completely close the game out, right? Like, if you can get a mage on a swords and then also, well, I guess, well, he could still scroll the mom. Okay, there's a Tangle Wire. He named Ramosian Sergeant.
Okay.
Oh, it's not a Tangle Wire, it's a bridge, excuse me. It's an
Oh,
Incendiary Bridge.
interesting. That was a card from the sideboard. I think that one's in the sideboard unless it's in the main. That I was not anticipating coming into this matchup. But the creatures are small enough that they're able to get under the bridge right now. Over the bridge, under the bridge.
Under the bridge. Call that the Red Hot Chili Peppers maneuver.
And we see important that John takes a damage to cast. But he'll look at the top three. He'll figure out whether he wants to keep those or shuffle up the deck. I feel like I do not shuffle very often with Pond or with Portent. Maybe maybe I should be more aggressive with that. But it looks like John has also kept the three, and he'll draw during Ben's upkeep.
It's bad news for Ben, maybe.
It wasn't. I mean, using reading body language, it wasn't just like a snap keep for John. So
Sure.
I guess you can read that as you will. That is one thing I think it's a lot harder. I do not look at my opponent's screen as much when I play webcam games. So it's a lot harder, I think, for me to pick up on any tells like that.
Mhm. So Ben's tapping 5 mana here.
The smokestack? Is that the sphere of law?
Yeah, it looks like it is.
All right, so that one is in here. So if a red source will deal damage to you, prevent two of that damage. So,
Blue and white creatures, come on over.
yep.
Ben's down to 11 here.
Yeah, once this bridge gets online, but there's an awkward tension with like cards like Sphere of Resistance and whatnot when you're trying to empty your hand. But
Yeah.
also, there's not. He only has two white mana right now, so that could also be a bottleneck that Ben has that he's not able to cast multiple. Because like cards like Whip Quarter or One Civvy are double white. Looks like Ben is trying to figure out how he wants to tap his mana. Does have is it so he has 3 Mistress Factory right now?
Yeah.
So I wonder if that will come into play because Mistress Factory is a good answer to a card like Meddling Mage. I guess you might be a little bit afraid of removal spells, but so it looks like a morph was. Wait, did he pay? The morph costs 4. Did he pay 3? Because if he only has 4 mana, he needs to do that in the other order,
I
right?
I think he tapped the 3 factories in the plains to play it, right? But he needs 5.
Oh,
Is that what you're saying?
he's just playing the Mox Diamond to get it out of his hand. But
Okay.
how? Oh, he did tap 4. There are 4 lands tapped
Yeah, he
there, yeah,
tapped
in that
4,
pile. Okay,
and then he
I
left
was
the
only seeing
1.
3. I was only seeing 2 Mistress Factories and then the caves, but there are 4 there. Yeah, yeah. Okay, but yeah, so
The
that's an
more
Exalted Angel. That wasn't a Whip
It is an
Quarter.
exalted angel, and it was fired.
Okay,
All right.
so here is this just an attack for the Mother Runes?
Yeah, just 1 card in Ben's hand.
Oh, okay.
So
I'm like,
Mom gets in.
I was trying to figure out why the Meddling Mage wasn't attacking. I was like, I don't think you want to block with that, but
Another 4 here.
that looks like a Tangle Wire.
Yeah.
So this Tangle Wire doesn't do a lot in this spot, I guess. You probably tap the creatures. I guess it depends on what's in John's hand, but certainly you can tap that Meddling Mage, given that it won't be attacking.
So John's gonna search. Get an island here.
So if Ben has like 2 cards in his hand during his turn, he's able to attack with like a Mistress Factory. I think that's gonna how he's gonna have to like try and chip away damage, but
Yep.
every time he does that, he's opening up himself to those lands being destroyed by the number of cards that John could have, like bolts and fires and swords. I guess you'd be able to play around like fire, ice, and bolt with 2 other factories. You're just attacking with 1.
So it looks like John's tapping 2 creatures and 2 lands here. So electing not to swing in with Mom this turn. Is there a reason for
I
that? I
think it's
mean,
just
maybe he wants to cast something, but
even if you have a chance of like casting a card, like a lot of times it's just the 1 damage is not that important. Like the blue white red deck is not looking to race as often, so just having 3 mana to like memory lapse something or just interact with a way, I think could be worth the point of life that you give up. Because even if well, we do see a dwarven blast miner.
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All right, let's bring this one up. This is always a card I've always liked.
This guy did work for me in 1 game, and it was awesome. But that was the only time I ever brought him in.
I had him one, and he was going to do work, and then uh, I think my opponent played like a 3rd oath and then triggered it. So we did see
Scroll.
a curse scroll came down. I was okay revealing a eternal dragon, so that takes out the dwarven blast miner. So this if this curse scroll stays in play, that really could change things
Absolutely.
pretty quickly. I guess. Well, even if I was to say like it's a little bit awkward to have a card like Eternal Dragons in your hand, but I guess since it has plane cycling, it's not going to get stuck. Because I'm just trying to think if like you might scroll an upkeep here. You think Dwarven Miner has better art than Dwarven Blast Miner? I like the Dwarven Dwarven Blast Miner a lot better. Let's bring up the Dwarven Miner. Like a Tinder pic.
Hey, girl. You'll never take me for granted.
Yeah. All right. Now that I should be looking back at the game as I'm trying to bring up random unglued cards or unglued cards.
Yeah, that one wasn't unglued.
Uh, Thank you, B Still 21 for the subscription. So we have the scroll was activated. Wait. Oh, he did not use the scroll. What is his mana tapped for? Oh, it's just Tangle Wire. One, two,
Yeah.
three. Why are there so many permanents tapped then? Did he attack? Oh, did he attack with the Mishra's Factory?
I believe so.
John
Yeah.
says he's at 16. Well, Ben does have a Rishadan port, so he is able to start pinging away with the tapping the city brass. Jared's asking about the difference between Dwarven Miner and Dwarven Blast Miner, and I think I don't know if it's more of a concession to the mana or the idea of you can mask whether it is a Dwarven Miner and an Exalted Angel. Like your opponent might be scared of an Exalted Angel and use a remove, change their game plan or whatnot. So I don't know. I don't mind. I don't know how often one toughness is better. I don't know. Maybe it is closer than I think, but
There was a match in the monthly where I actually brought in the Blast Miners because as 2/2 creatures, they were still better than I think my other options.
all
I'm
right.
trying to remember what match it was. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't know if that's it. Maybe an advantage that just having the second mode of a 3 mana 2/2 in some cases might be better than
Yep.
just always the consistent 1/1/2 of the Dwarven Miner. So Ben right now has two cards in hand, one unknown and then one eternal dragon. So
Curse
here,
Scroll continuing to do work there.
which turn are we on? Ben's tapping a factory and a. Wait, is he attacking with? Okay, so I think he's attacking with a factory, and John is using a Swords of Plowshares. Ben has the option to tap additional Mishra factories to just gain extra life, but it looks like he opts not to. Ben goes to
12.
12.
Mhm. That's right, Jared. Gray Ogre for the win.
I mean, there have been multiple times where I've just attacked like 5 or 6 times with a meddling mage. I mean, I guess it's not a 3 mana 2/2, but there's certainly times that I've done a lot of damage with the 2/2 in this format.
Oh, yeah. Especially with this deck.
Yeah. So if John is attacking with meddling mage here, like Ben has the option. He just could like activate the Mistress Factory block and pump. Uh, I mean, it's either like a bluff from John, or he's kind of saying like it's gonna die to a curse scroll anyways, and so he doesn't mind as much. But was that a? Oh yeah, I guess there's a post combat lightning angel
Yeah.
because
John's a
the
15 as well from tapping the city.
ensnaring bridge doesn't really matter. It's not gonna get in. I guess it's a blocker, so.
So Mage down. So Now Ben can play that Ramostian Sergeant he just drew.
All right. As Ben adjusts his mana, right now he has access. He has six lands. Is that where he's at?
Mm-hmm.
2 planes, 2 Mishra's Factory, and 2 Rishton ports. So with the so he's gonna get a John's gonna take a damage from the City Brass being tapped because of Rishton port. And then there's a 50% chance of taking damage from Curse Scroll. He might cycle the dragon.
Mm-hmm.
Hi Tom,
So,
how's it going?
hey, Tom. All
All
right,
right.
I was just going to say, John really wants to disenchant that bridge. And there it is.
All right. So I guess like Ben from this spot needs.
Yeah, he's got the sword. So
Okay,
he
he does have
tapped
a
the
sword
island.
to avoid counter magic. Okay. And then he uses 2 mana to cast the Swords of Plowshares. So John will go up to 17.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Yeah, Ben. I think Ben's pretty happy with this position. I don't know how
Oh,
many
yeah.
cards are in John's hand, but you might just start getting aggressive with the Mishra's Factories, or
Yeah, I think that's what I would do. Just get in there and win this race.
okay, there is a bolt for one of them.
Pretty good. It's a 2.
Well,
Post combat. Can you make out what that is? Is it a falcon?
I think that's a sergeant.
Sergeant. Okay. I'm always just going to guess falcon.
The one of. All right, so now with this sergeant online, it can get a lieutenant or a whip quarter. Or if you get the lieutenant, then you can get Lynn Civi. But again, it's pretty mana intensive to Ben to do that. So John has a little bit of time here. We see a factory getting attacked, but it's going to get fired.
Gonna plane cycle here.
I wonder if we'll see the
No, Gabe. No photo file this time.
it's less of the obscurity and more of just the image quality. I think in this instance, Gabe's referring to the decks he played in the Premodern Showdown Series 2 with his fairies deck. That every time he played it, I just kind of made up card names for what they were because I couldn't ever remember them.
Yep. Pretty good play there for John with the angel. And he's cleared. Is there any factories left? He got rid of them all, right? Oh, and he has the swords. Oof. Wow.
So John goes.
Inconveniently.
He went down to cast the angel, but then gains 3, so he's at 17.
Yep.
Ben is at 11.
There's the scroll. Revealing what a smokestack.
What did Ben take 1 from? It was the fire like target split, and did he take 1? But he shouldn't have because of the sphere of law.
I'm not sure.
Because I thought he was at 12, but
Maybe he took a damage from his caves?
I guess. Oh, the angel attacked. Okay. Yep. All right. Thanks, Ron.
Mm. Thanks,
Yeah.
Ron.
The three minus one or three minus two is one. So. All right. Medley mage. Are you still naming swords even though have two or three of them been cast?
I don't know. It's so hard because the scroll's just sitting there,
Oh,
so
sure.
it feels like an exercise in futility. But
Well, I mean, right now Ben has. I think that was the fourth card in his hand right now. I think there's three face down cards. Maybe there's only two.
just
I think there's three.
three. Yeah, he's got four cards in hand. We've seen what, three swords to plowshares from Ben.
I wasn't sure if it was three or two, but
So maybe you just name Lynn Civi.
that's the lieutenant.
Okay. John representing memory lapse potentially.
I wonder if that's a card he sideboarded out. Um,
I think I probably would
we haven't
on the
seen
draw.
it, and this game's been
Yeah,
pretty long. Though, I
I think I
mean,
would.
there are a lot of benefits. Like if someone's like casting Enlightened Tutor, that is like a number of turns you save. But I guess given the game's going so long, I can see when the memory lapse isn't as effective. So we see the swords take out the sergeant before Ben can untap and activate it.
Hmm.
He gets a life
Another
for
plane
his
cycle here.
trouble, but that's not really something. So we see a smokestack in his hand as well as a planes that he just got.
So I think John really just wants to draw a exalted angel here. I think that's his best possible draw.
Yeah, he, he can cast it
Like,
face up, so he doesn't have to worry about curse scroll. So
yeah,
I think that's another lieutenant.
yeah. John has no cards in his hand, so he's going to thin the deck, go to 14 here. Probably grab an island. Yeah.
So whose spot do you like here?
I like Ben's.
Yeah, I still feel like I don't think it's a huge advantage to Ben because I think John has a lot of time, but there's not like one card I guess other than Exalted Angel. I think that, and even if it is Exalted Angel, the uh getting a whip quarter
Mm.
could really help Ben out. So yeah, things are looking pretty good for Ben here. Yeah, Scroll is Ben doing a lot of work. It that one of Scroll has really prevents John from like developing a board. We're not doing timed rounds, so we're just gonna have them finish the match and then go to the
Okay.
second one. All right.
Yeah, I understand why John named Ramosian Sergeant. I think it just, in my experience playing this deck, I almost always want to name removal, like scroll or swords. Um, it may not have mattered in the end, but Ben doesn't have a lot of ways to interact with John's permanence other than smokestack or you know through combat, and so I really do think that if you can stop at least half of those ways, whether it's a sword or scroll, it really just makes it much harder for Ben to answer your threats. I wonder what John played. Blast miner. It's a blast miner.
Well, I mean, if it were an angel, it wouldn't be face down. So I guess you could play it face down and then uh I guess the problem is yeah, because if you tap a white mana, then you could just flip it up. I guess there's no real opportunity cost to if it were an angel, because
Yeah.
you might gain two life basically by
Yeah,
him.
Jared. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
I was gonna say because the you might use the curse scroll to target it and then just flip it up. So instead of it pointing at your head, it's at the creature.
Yeah, save you the life.
That's a contamination, and it was a door and blast miner. Okay.
Yeah. And now is he playing? He's playing the contamination. That's a game. I don't think John can get out of that. Yeah, I think that's a game.
Yep.
Ooh, all right, game 3.
All right. So bring up the contamination just to show. So we talked about before with this in play, and then he can get Lin Civvy, and then Lin Civvy can recycle the rebels, and so Ben's able to develop a board state, and John's not able to cast any of his spells. So pretty cool lock that was presented from Ben. So Ben equalizes in that game, and let's move back over to the sideboards to see if anything really changes. I mean, I don't think we saw anything that was crazy. I guess we did see the Dwarven Blast Miners, which we weren't sure were coming in. So I think just from that game, it looked like John had taken out the memory lapses, maybe the predicts as well.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I saw any of those.
I wonder if you're Ben here, if you put your Enlightened Tutors back in, or if you even took any out. I mean, there is the fear of getting your tutored card predicted.
Yeah, I guess we
Because it
didn't.
feels super bad, but we didn't see any predicts or lapses. So Ben might be sneaking those back into his deck if he took some number of them out. It
Well,
doesn't look like John's making any changes.
yeah, it is a card that like yeah, I could understand definitely taking that out because you know about the predicts. But you do have a number of one ofs that you kind of
I
really want to get.
know.
Like the curse scroll did a lot of work there, and the
Yeah.
contamination did a lot of work. So uh, even the ensnaring bridge was pretty good. So maybe we did see a lot of like the serial law cards that we like didn't think were like the greatest. Maybe that's just a concession that Ben said. All right, I'm taking out these enlightened tutors because I don't want to risk getting predict. Um, and he's just bringing in all the sideboard cards that are reasonable. Yeah,
I
that was a cool game. That was a
really good game. I let them know they can start game 3 whenever they're ready.
yep. We'll try and power through this, and then we'll get our second match started as soon as we can, so that the players can try and get done at a reasonable time. All right, let's switch over here. Hopefully, the players will be starting soon. So Ben is cutting while John's still shuffling. John will get to be on the play. I mean, I think in this matchup, I don't think being on the play is a significant advantage, just given how many turns the games go. And I mean, we've seen an early sphere of resistance out of Ben both games, and the John's able to still continue on. It's not like it just he folds to it.
Right,
It
right.
just,
It
I
does,
mean, it definitely
does slow him down
slow
though.
him down for sure. But the games I think are expected to go longer.
I mean, I think if John can find an opener here with a couple cards that interact with the artifacts, he's in really good shape. So an annul or disenchant in his opening 7 is huge. Annul obviously would be the dream. But if he can interact with Ben's kind of early game plan to slow things down, then I think he'll be in a pretty good spot.
And just looking at body language, it looks like both players are keeping. They are aware that they can go, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right, we see a flooded strand cracked right away, and so I guess it could be a
Important
mother runes, could be a
or mother.
portent, like, or it could just be representing an annul. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think it's probably important, with unless he has a fair number of other lands in his hand and he just wants to thin out just a little bit even from the get-go. I mean, the margins aren't going to be huge, but okay. So it is important. color fixing is not something we talked about with the deck, but certainly, not having access to all three colors when you need them can definitely be a problem. And so sometimes you might want to wait to crack that fetch land until you draw your next card to see if you draw into another land. So it's little things like that to consider.
Yeah, it's likely that that says like only blue source, so he had to use it right away.
Yeah, that's what I'm guessing too.
All right, Ramosian Sergeant out of Ben. So this, I guess, is the first game where John kind of, I think, has had a turn two that didn't have a sphere resistance in play.
Yeah.
John kept with the Porton, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, because he was hesitating. I'm like, thought he was missing a land drop, and I would be very surprised if he kept the Porton but then missed the land. So
What if he's got a fire in his hand here?
I think you'd use that pretty quick. I guess you could wait. There's Ancient Tomb is a is a reason not to wait because that allows him to use the Ramosian Sergeant right away.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but when I played the deck, I found that sometimes waiting and trying to get greedy with fire almost backfired, like because the opponent would do something that would, you they'd get a bigger creature, or they would use whatever resources they had to get even further ahead, and so it really wasn't worth it to sort of wait and hope that they played another 1/1, even if there were a lot of 1/1s in their deck.
Okay, we do see Pyroclasm, so that's a nice answer to the Rebel
It's
mechanic.
pretty good.
Because
It's pretty good.
you could go get any of the rebels you want with that one, and they're still going to die to Pyroclasm. So
Ben says, "All right, you can have that."
John has the Gemstone Mine and Reflecting Pool, so he's set for mana right now. I guess if he has to use that Gemstone Mine too many times, that the Reflecting Pool gets a little worse. But right, that's a Dust Bowl, I believe. So Ancient Tomb's tapped, so Ben will take 2. What is he casting for 4 mana? Oh, is he activating Dust Bowl? That looks like what he's doing. So he uses the Dust Bowl activation to take out the Gemstone Mine. I guess that maybe Ben has a land heavy hand and he's hoping John he can disrupt his mana.
Not a bad strategy. We just talked about the mana woes that
Well, I mean
John's deck can have.
problem is his heroes like if you're using all your mana to disrupt John, you don't have a board presence, and so you're not developed on the board. So it's kind of hard to do that every turn and then get a threat in play. So I guess John's not always going to make his land drops, but we did see a Mox Diamond was added. So a Rishan Port was discarded. I mean, I have to feel like either Ben has a lot of lands in his hand or no lands at all, because Rishan Port seems pretty good if you're on like a mana denial plan.
So 2 blue here.
This is just cycling the ice so you can draw an extra card. Yeah, I do feel like Dust Bowl. It's very powerful in certain matchups, and the opportunity cost of playing a Dust Bowl is not that high. Like it's still pretty. It's if your mana can support it, then you're not unhappy to see it in the matches where it doesn't do anything other than tap every mana. And like a matchup potentially like this can really change how the game plays. All right, 2 more damage from the Ancient Tomb. This is colorless mana. There's a Tangle Wire.
Pretty good.
Okay, we'll slow things down here.
John, I'm sure, very happy to see that mountain.
Yep, another way for his Reflecting Pools So now they make two colors of mana instead of just one. But, so it looks like, yeah, 1, 2, 3. The Mox Diamond, the Dust Bowl, and the Tanglewire are tapped. So Ben has 2 mana right now, which he'll use. Play a Sphere Resistance. Alright, well, he's got a lot of the lock pieces going out. I mean, you see a lot of mud elements with Ancient Tombs and Spheres and Tanglewires, but again, there's not really any pressure coming out of Ben, so even if John doesn't able to do it, if he's not able to do anything for a while, he's gonna be able to kind of get out of the soft lock eventually, I think. So interesting. So I was say red mana was left up, but I guess that's because John might have had a Flooded Strand in his hand.
It's a nice draw or play because now he can get all three basics, which he's going to feel much, much better about staring down that Dust Bowl, even though it hasn't been activated in a few turns.
Yeah, but there might be. I don't know if there's a card that Ben could cast where he John would need to use like an annul that turn, but I don't know.
Interesting.
Oh, you do see a
Karmic Justice.
Karmic Justice, so that's a card that we did talk about, but I mean here when you're kind of going after the mana, even if any of your permanents get destroyed, then just taking out one land is pretty good. And then if it's not targeting the Karmic Justice, then that might happen if another card is destroyed, or John's kind of forced to use it on the Karmic Justice and not able to target the card he would actually want.
Notice John not sacking there, wanting to draw more lands. Oh, and there's another Flooded Strand.
I guess I missed an activation from the
From Ben.
yeah of the Ancient Tomb.
It's almost like we're just starting the game over again because both players are trying to like reset and develop their board out, right?
Yeah, the only issue is like Ben's at 12, and like
I know.
if John just drops like a Lightning Angel, then then it's kind of troublesome for Ben. I mean, he probably has a swords, given how long this game's gone, and but right, 2 activations of the Flood Destroyer.
So Ben just has the one scroll in his deck, right?
Yes.
Okay. The sequence of plays that John really wants is Mother of Runes, naming swords to plowshares, and then a threat. And I think if he can do that, I mean, he's heavily favored to win.
I mean, there's still
I didn't say it's a
yeah
shoe in, but
yeah
I think he's definitely heavily favored.
yeah like Ben's cards to get out of situations are cards like Curse Scroll or Smokestacks or kind of Contamination. I guess there's a pretty limited number of cards that John's kind of worried about. It looks like John's done a good job of hitting land drops after like
Angel.
this Sphere and Tanglewire have come down. So even though this one costs 5 mana, it's still pretty potent, even though it's cast on turn 12 or whatever it is.
All right. So Ben's down to 9.
All right. Well, I guess there was no Swords to Plowshares there, right? Like
Nope.
Ben had mana open, so
Yeah, he had the Mux Diamond open.
well, he needs 2 mana with a Sphere.
Yeah, I think he had other mana
Okay.
as well. I don't think he had any lands tapped. What's this? The Sphere? Of course.
Sphere of Law. All right. Well, still 1 damage is better than nothing from John's perspective.
So John says, saying take 1 here. You swinging yet?
We're getting another one. Second Angel.
Oh, take 2.
Take 2. Well, I mean,
Ben's down to 5. So he took damage off of his
Ancient Tomb
to cast the
Okay.
Sphere.
Which is actually a big deal. I think I saw because this is a fire, probably an ice, because fire would not be very effective in this position.
No, no,
So
no, no. So upkeep, tap the Mox Diamond. So
okay,
Ben still has white mana with the Caves of Quelos, but
but I mean, taking a damage is very painful.
which he's looks like he's doing.
Like if he's
He's
taking
taking at least
three,
two.
it was a
Engineered Plague
engineered plague,
on Angel.
but he's so he took three.
Yeah.
He's down to two, but now the angels are now two powered. This is
Oh man, this is amazing. I love this game.
uh I mean I still like John's position, but he's not able to deal any damage. This is like the funniest way to deal with uh lightning angels. Get a sphere of law and then an engineered plague.
Yep.
But John
So
could draw like
John,
two bolts or something. What other ways? Exalted Angel, Meddling Mage. He could draw a way to deal with Sphere of Law, and then the angel, one angel would probably die because of karmic justice. Well, all right, we see a morph.
so it could be a Whipcorder or an Exalted Angel, right?
Yes.
And did he? Oh, okay. Okay. Yep. We're good. So John really wants a bolt or a disenchant.
Yes. Fire Ice would be fine. I
Yeah,
mean,
Fire Eyes. He's got a lot of outs here.
he might have to swords to polish. Like if he has the swords, he might have to swords that card.
He doesn't want Ben to gain 3 life.
Well, one thing that's interesting is if from his current position, like if John does have a bolt, Ben would have to take a damage to flip up Exalted Angel from the spot. Because he doesn't have a pain-free source of white mana. I mean, he has one.
Mox
He has a Mox,
Diamond,
but he needs
yeah, the
two.
other one's the Caves. Yeah, yeah.
So like a card like he would just
Oh, wow. Okay.
just has two bolts. So
Well, that'll seal the deal, folks.
all
Woo!
right, we're gonna
What a
briefly talk to our players since
match.
we did go pretty long.
Yeah.
We're gonna try and get our second match started real shortly, but let's quickly talk to our players. Hey guys, can you hear me and Flint?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna keep this conversation quick because your match did go a little bit long, but
Mute.
there were a lot of cool things going on in that game. I guess the kind of one takeaway was kind of the scrappy defense you had up in that sphere of law and engineered plague to shut out the lightning angels. I'm guessing that enlightened tutors came out of your deck and you just kind of brought in all those bullets. Is that what happened?
Yeah, I was playtesting this, and my intruder is just a nightmare, especially because he has predict.
Yep.
And so I just like threw in everything I could, and just like hope, like you know that scene in Futurama where it's like we're just gonna send wave after wave of our own men until they run out of bullets. I think it was something like that.
Nice. Very nice. I wondered if you might bring him back in game 3 since we didn't see any memory lapses or predicts in game 2.
Oh. Well, wait. Yeah.
I got them.
Oh, you kept them. Yeah. So I actually I did think about that. And from my testing, even just going for getting 2-for-1, like when I'm getting a silver bullet, he has answers to it. So even when he does have like a disenchant for what I think is really good, like I'll get an ensnaring bridge, it's never the silver bullet that I want against that particular deck, and so it's tough.
Fair enough.
I felt oddly confident in the last game, like near the end, but I was just like, there's no to play around. I was just going fun, but that was a lot of fun. This is exactly what I wanted to. Well, not a loss, but like this play was really fun.
No,
I came to lose.
Those games felt really close. I mean, I guess probably a lot of times, even when you do lose with that Rebel Stacks deck, is the games probably are pretty close. But because the games usually just probably go for so many turns, sometimes when you lose. But yeah, it was really fun to watch.
Yeah,
Oh,
really good
it was-
games.
It was a lot of fun to play. All right. Well, yeah. We'll we'll get off the.
Really quick, just before we vouch, John, I want to give you a chance to chime in real quick, like just
Okay,
about your
yeah.
thoughts coming into the match, and then once you knew what Ben was on, kind of what your game plan was.
I mean, we played this not that long ago. So pretty much, I mean, I knew basically the game plan was to get a bunch of lands into play. And,
Yeah.
you know, basically ignore spheres. And then hope he didn't have Sphere of Law. That card's really irritating.
I was surprised how effective that was. I wasn't even sure if that card was coming in, but it was definitely a thorn in your side in the second and third game.
Yeah, I mean, turning off the Angels is pretty big because it's pretty much the big source of my damage. Everything else, I mean, I have to pretty much reserve all my burn for removal, just because, like, if he gets Rebels going, then I can be really behind really quickly.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's a. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, that was all.
Oh, I was just gonna say that, and that's exactly right. I really needed to bring in so many things that he needed to answer that he would just run out and bringing in like I have a few cards like a Snaring Bridge, like the Sphere of Law, where it shuts off the majority of his threats, so it's really effective.
All right, I'm gonna kick you two out so we can get our other match started. But
Great games, guys.
Yeah, I want to thank you for the great
Take
games
care.
and congratulations,
Thanks for
John.
having us. This was a lot of fun. Oh, and thanks to all the people who helped me test, including Phil and Gabe Shalom and Ron was even before this match giving me heads up. So thanks.
Okay.
Awesome.
So
Have a
to
good night, guys.
viewers, we're going to take a brief intermission as we get our second match set up, but it probably won't be long given how long that one went. So we'll see you in just a moment. All right, everybody, thanks for waiting. We have our players in Brian Durkin and James Smits. They're shuffled up and ready to play. Let's jump down to our band screen, talk about the decks that Brian and James brought to this tournament. So Brian has a 4-color Terrageddon. He had the discipline just to stay with 4 colors, while Jared went with 5. But yeah, I do like that list. We'll talk about that later if we see it. And then Survival Elves is another deck that Brian brought. And then just good old-fashioned Sly was the last deck he chose. James went with Blue-Black Stiflenought. So we saw the Esper version from Aaron Dix. James goes for just the Blue-Black version, which I know he has played more and has won a monthly with in the past. The Sly that he has is the 5-color Sly that James is kind of known for. It has an Enlightened Tutor package, so that one's always exciting. And then Star Spangled Slaughter, so a list that's very similar to what we just saw John playing, is his third deck. Brian banned the Star Spangled Slaughter, and James banned the Survival Elves. So let's jump over to the decks. Brian has elected to bring the 4-color Terrageddon tonight. So, Flint, do you want to talk about this deck a little bit of what's going on and if anything stands out to you?
Yeah, I'll be very quick because I know we're a little behind, but the deck uses the tax rack package and generates an advantage, a card advantage, and also the board advantage with the mana with the werebears. If it can resolve an early Armageddon, that can often be just a quick game over. They can also grind out with the best of them by interacting with the board with the swords, by stopping the opponent's game plan with the meddling mage, having some silver bullets in there to tutor for in addition to the package. And Terravor kind of, tops everything off and is a nice end of game creature that oftentimes swings in and closes the game out in 1 or 2 hits. Really powerful deck. I think if James tries to play Sly, he has to be very wary of a card like Zurin Orb. It's a hard card to beat, and also the interaction with swords. But this deck can interact with the best of them, and it's won a couple of monthlies, earlier versions and later versions. So it's definitely a powerful deck.
All right, and then for James, he is playing the Blue-Black Stiflenought. So what this deck is, a very streamlined version of very efficient of getting the Dreadnought into play. The black supplement is cards like Duress and Mesmeric Fiend and Limdol's Vault, but then there are just a lot of reasonably powerful blue cards like Gush And then especially like in this deck, like foil really shines because you're all in on this one card, and you can use your other resources just to counter a key spell and then like finish them off with a 12/12. This deck does do like a pretty good job of like refreshing because of cards like Gush and Limdal's Vault. Of even if the one does get disrupted, then it can kind of refill. One thing to note is, I mean, it's obvious that this deck, its way to win is through Phyrexian Dreadnought, and the opponent has Meddling Mage, which I guess James isn't quite aware of right now, but going into games 2 and 3, it might definitely be on his mind. So let's go over to the key cards and kind of get an idea how we think this match might play out. So as I just mentioned, a card like Meddling Mage. So as soon as Brian's going to realize that James is on the Stiflenought list, the Meddling Mage becomes really powerful because if you're just naming the Phyrexian Dreadnought, the ways for James to do anything about that in the main deck, I think, is one Boomerang. I think to bounce that. I don't think he has any permanent way of removing it. So if that Meddling Mage resolves, Boomerang is a very important card. And then the other one with the Enlightened Tutor, just being able to get silver bullets, smooth out your draw. There are cards like Seal of Cleansing or even Seal of Removal that are disruptive against a resolved Dreadnought that may come into play. So though those actually could be interacted with a card like Stifle or Vision Charm, actually could protect it if it's getting bounced or destroyed. On James' perspective, Limdal's Vault I think is a very key card, mostly because of the Meddling Mages that are present. That this is like the one way that you would be able to find a Boomerang, and so I think this card's going to be really important, and it just could fill the role of smoothing out James's draw. But then another card of foil being able to protect his quote unquote combo, like his protect the queen in the Dreadnought. Even if he's tapped out, he has the option of foil. So I think that card might come into play. Do you have any other predictions before we jump down to the match, Flint?
Nope. Let's get it on.
All right, let them know that they can get started. Do we know who's on the play? It looks like James is keeping a full 7. And did you see Brian at all?
I did not see.
Okay. Well, I'll fire up this poll. You guys can have a few minutes to predict who is going to win this match. And
Get started.
I will flip around James' playmat so we can see what's going on. All right, he's got an island and a lotus petal, so we could see this Dreadnought coming out real quick. It looks like a duress is the first lead, so we see Trevor's Ruin, an Enlightened Tutor, and a Werebear. So the Enlightened Tutor gets taken out, and the coast is clear from James's perspective.
Oh yeah.
We got someone cheering for James. I don't understand why. Oh, maybe they're related. I don't know.
Maybe they're related. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're brothers. Maybe they're not. I don't know. It's a mystery.
All right, let me get my card fetcher up so we can see some of these cards. All right.
So just a reminder for those of you newer to Premodern, maybe you haven't played with Undiscovered Paradise in a while. It turns during the untap step. So gets to search for some lands.
Yep, works pretty well with land tax. You're able to just cast your spell. Obviously, you do lose a land drop, but puts your opponent in kind of a predicament of... I mean, I feel like there's sometimes that I hesitate just like saying go without playing a land, but I don't think that's rarely ever the solution, I think, when you're playing against a land tax deck.
So Brian here, playing a white source with one unknown. So did he draw a Swords to Plowshares? He technically doesn't even have to have it this turn.
Yeah, the opportunity cost of it is pretty low. Like, there's no other real card that you'd be representing. And I like how he picked it up.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we see James go for a Dreadnought, and then has a Vision Charm.
Brian picks it up again and says, "Okay."
All right, so the Vision Charm will phase out the Dreadnought. So when the trigger's on the stack, you phase it out, and then when it phases back in, it will not trigger come into play effects. So
Right.
you'll just have the 12/12 Trampler.
Was it maybe or maybe people can say in chat? Has it always been that phasing in does not trigger enter the battlefield effects, or was there a time when phasing in did trigger enter the battlefield effects?
I think only because of historically, like, I don't think this Dreadnought combo existed for a while. I think it still did trigger, or the rules were different in some way. That because I don't ever remember, because I mean these cards were in the same block, the Dreadnought and the Vision Charm, so I don't ever remember that being a thing. I think it would have been so otherwise, but
Anthony says it went back and forth. Phasing used to not trigger, but for a time, phasing triggered leaves play abilities. Okay.
Interesting.
Then they changed that. Got it. Thanks, Anthony.
all right. So we see how many cards does Brian have that interacts here? So like Seal of Removal, Seal of Cleansing, Swords to Plowshares, Enlightened Tutor, Scroll Rack. Those are all cards that are reasonable things. But there's not a lot of time when you're facing down the 12th of, well, this Meddling Mage is unfortunately a turn too late.
He's still okay, right? Like, you could still draw a removal.
Yeah, I think at this point you're naming a reactive card. You're not naming the Dreadnought. And so it's reasonable, but
you could name foil. You could name what else?
I mean you could defend a lot of things. You could say Limbal's Volt, you could say Gush, say foil, you could say even Daze, maybe. I probably not Daze. But yeah, this Dreadnought will come in, deal 12.
Tapping your opponent's life total down 12 times feels pretty good, I would have to imagine.
Yeah. And yeah, Brian doesn't have anything there, so
Okay.
yep, that nice clean sequence of duressing away the reactive card and then clearing the way for the Dreadnought gives James the victory. And he kind of circumvented, I guess, just because of the speed of that, the one problem card that I noted in Meddling Mage. So the players are going to look to their sideboards to see if they can change the dynamics of the match, and let's see if we can.
How much better does Brian's deck get?
Seal of Cleansing looks good. Smother looks good. Abeyance can destroy artifacts, right? Or abolish, yeah.
Abolish, yeah. Abolish looks good.
And the Aura Silence is fine. I think Wrath of God is too slow. So 1, 2, 3, 4 reasonable cards. Are there cards that look too slow? I guess Engineered Plague is probably one that he doesn't need. I mean, all the other cards seem fine.
I think you probably take out a Zern Orb.
Oh, you can take out Armageddon.
Yeah, Zern Orb, Armageddon.
I think I might keep. I don't know if I would. Zern Orb, how much life would it need to buy you a turn? You need to sacrifice 3 lands, pretty much. Mm-hmm. That's possible. And then also, like, I don't know if there's certain situations where like a Terravord needs to get bigger. I guess I'm looking. I would take out the 3 Armageddons and the 2 Engineered Plagues. I would take those out, I think, before the Zerg Orb. But so a card like Mystic Enforcer might come into play. I don't know. I mean, you might bring in Defense Grid. I don't know, because there is permission out of like in this spot. I think Brian is the control deck, so it's not something that that Defense Grid usually comes in against. But I could see maybe a card like that coming in too. All right, let's look at the blue-black list. So,
Real not, real
Annul's
not
look
players
good.
use Carrion Feeder instead of Vision Charm Stifle. Nice, Phil. Sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
Oh, just carrion, not carrion feeder. Carrion actually, like,
Carrion.
I was just saying that seems like, yeah. 'Cause that gets you a bunch of,
Carrion.
like, O1s or something. I
Yeah.
think. All right. Annuls seem good. There's a couple copies of those. 2 copies of Tormod's Crypt. I think I'd be bringing in another copy of Boomerang. I guess I'd bring in Smother because that answers Werebear, Meddling Mage, and Terravore. So are there cards that don't seem good?
1 second. Go ahead and.
Maybe Daze. Maybe I'd be taking out the Dazes.
Yeah. I would take out the Dazes. Although I'm not much of a Stiflenought player, so if you're in chat and you're a big Stiflenought player, chime in here too, especially this version.
Yeah, the deck list here seems pretty tight. I mean, maybe if you expect the games to go a little bit longer, you shave on like one of the stifle effects, stifle or vision charms, or just lotus petals. I think lotus petal might be a card you take out too. But I guess even though like James is bringing in more cards, I feel like Brian, his game plan just seems to be a little bit more whole now that like he brings in like 5 more cards. I mean, I was gonna say I thought Brian might even be slightly advantaged in game one just because of how powerful that Meddling Mage was, but the speed of the blue black Stiflenought deck is not to be underestimated. Yeah, this blue black list is very spicy. No Hekato or Sengira Rat Autocrat. Yeah.
Oh, what a deck!
Phil did play a version of Stiflenought that had some unusual cards and was pretty cool. All right, you can let the players know if you haven't already that they can
Just did.
get back. Oh, I need to switch around. I don't know if I had the life or the might have granted the wrong score earlier. Okay, and we see similar to the first game, an undiscovered paradise into a land tax for Brian.
Pretty solid. We're gonna see a Lotus Petal with this. Oh my goodness. These guys shuffle their decks. What's going on here? Dress.
This is just like a instant replay. We're just
It's gonna take an Enlightened Tutor here.
a scroll rack, a seal of removal, an abolish, and a
Oh,
light
that's a
tutor.
spicy hand.
So I can't take all of those with the duress. So what are you looking to take here?
The seal of removal or the tutor? Oh, he takes the abolish. Interesting. I mean, I guess he's gonna land tax and get the plane, so I guess that makes sense.
Then we see a portent. I'm gonna guess this is targeting James, given there's a land tax that's gonna trigger, but that would be a great move for James. Like really think about the order of the cards that he wants for Brian, and then just tells him not to shuffle, and then Brian has to shuffle anyways. I feel like I'm encouraging everyone to
Yeah.
to troll people when they play portent. So
Just a reminder, folks.
only against me. That's only allowed. Not permissible against anyone else. Anthony says A+ playmats choices for both players. Yep, we see the Brainstorm pre-modern era, but technically not legal because it's on the ban list, and then Lotus Petal for Brian.
Such a good card.
I'm guessing one of these cards he's gonna get is I guess I would say I guess he doesn't have the abolish, but he's probably gonna get a planes anyways.
I feel like most people like the Masks version of Brainstorm better, the artwork. What do you think?
I really like the Masks one. If I mean the Masks one didn't exist, I wouldn't mind the Chris Rush Ice Age one, but I really like the symmetry and I don't know. I guess it's not like there's not symmetry on the Ice Age one, but I really like the Mercadian one.
I want to know, is there anybody in chat who prefers the Ice Age one? And not just to be contrarian, but legitimately, likes the Ice Age artwork better.
I mean, I
All
can see
right,
a
we
lot
got one immediately. All right,
So
okay.
a lot of people are just in general like Chris Rush fans. So that doesn't surprise me, but
Yeah, I really like the masks art. I think it's amazing. But the Ice Age one is just so nostalgic for me that's the one I usually play in decks where it's legal. And it's good art too. It is good, to be fair. But I think the nostalgia pushes me over the edge.
Yep, I just bought a bunch of cards to finish off a Legacy deck, and I will be playing the Mercadian Brainstorm, so.
Nice.
Mercadian Mask is the right answer for every question. What if the question is worst Brainstorm art? Oh no.
Got him. All right. What did we miss while we were chatting? So it looks like
Seal of
Brian
Removal
tried to
was
play a seal
cast.
and it got annulled.
Yes.
All right.
The going back to the Ice Age art on Brainstorm, the top of his head just always reminds me of like bubblegum. Is his head like split open? Like, can you see his brain, or is that just like the color of the background, like over it? I always thought that like his brain was exposed.
Maybe it's lighting up.
All right. That is like, we sometimes see in the chat, we see gracefully balding. If that's his brain exposed, I think that is not gracefully balding. Yeah, it is pretty literal, yeah. But I mean, like, I still feel like it would be a good depiction of Brainstorm even if his brain was not exposed. That you could say, like, yes, there's a storm coming out of his brain.
All right. So Brian's tutoring here for a defense grid.
So, Crivey, thank you for the follow. So, yeah, we do see at least one of the copies of Defense Grid. I mean, I guess the opportunity cost with the Enlightened Tutor package isn't super high, but it looks like Brian is looking to have protection against the counter magic from James.
And there it is. So you think if James is going to make his move, he wants to do it ASAP. I mean, Brian's been holding that scroll rack back because he wants it to see play, but it's still going to take a little bit of time to do some work. Okay, yeah, so he is going to go for it this turn.
Okay, so we do see it resolve. So we would have swords. Seal of
Swords,
Cleansing.
another seal.
I don't think he had Enlightened Tutor. Oh, because otherwise he would have cast it, I think, during upkeep.
He probably brought in Aura of Silence, right? He
Yes.
can't cast it right now.
Oh, he could cast it because he has a Windswept Heath or a
Oh, okay.
Undiscovered Paradise.
Didn't see the Heath. Smother. Can we cast Smother?
Yep.
No.
Well, not with the land that he played, but he could have if he's getting other planes. He could cast Armageddon. Do you think? Would you recommend casting Armageddon here?
Probably not. I'm gonna go with no.
All right, you see 3 mana 4. There's an Aura of Silence.
Yeah.
It's a blinding Aura of Silence, but I don't think it will be staying on the battlefield very long.
Notably playing a round of days here as well, right?
Oh,
I mean, I guess the defense grid
grid's in play.
Never
Yeah,
mind.
so.
Never mind.
I think I would have used it right away because there, if you go like, oh, I guess you can't play Lotus Petal, so. Do you suffer from chronic migraines? Ask your doctor from Cadia. is right for you.
TM.
All right. Well,
He's taking it.
interesting. I guess the thought process is like the first hit isn't that important, and this is just like it's not even like protection against. It is protection against the second one coming down right now, because you'd have to pay 3 for the dreadnought and then 1 for the stifle. So interesting. I mean, it's a line I wouldn't have thought of, but I can understand the reasoning behind it. He wouldn't have stifle because of defense grid. Oh, I guess that's not a reason to do it on his turn, is because of vision charm and stifle. That's probably the biggest. Yeah, if he did it on his turn, then if James had another one of those. So that is most likely the reason. Less of the reason I talked about before.
All right, so Werebear comes down here for Brian.
Oh, still a 1/1. There are 5 cards in the graveyard, and then we have a Sylvan Library.
Sylvan, yep.
So yeah, I'm sure Brian was wishing that he would have 12 more life, that he'd be able to use that Sylvan Library a little more aggressively. But I guess the difference between 8 and 4 against the Stiflenought deck is pretty inconsequential, right? I mean, there's Mesmeric Fiends, but
Yeah, he's got the Werebear though.
yeah, I think I would be pretty keen to be drawing an extra card off this first Sylvan Library activation.
I mean, he's got the scroll rack, but now he's got so many lands in play that he's not really getting the land tax activations that he wants. So now I guess would be a time where, maybe an Armageddon might actually be a legit play, or even a Zurin Orb, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be surprised if the Armageddons are in the deck, but
yeah,
maybe. I mean, like with all the like controlling elements, maybe if you're expecting just to destroy a dreadnought. The player's asking us
might be getting
something.
a question here.
I don't know. Like it seemed like Brian missed the Sylvan Library trigger. That was what my feeling was, but I think we're past that trigger. I think that is something you can miss. I don't think it's
a May trigger.
Yeah. All right. So this Werebear, he's got the right to bear arms, and he's going to use them. Have they ever used this like the same flavor text on 2 different cards?
I don't know.
Like I could see like some like Simic card that is like some amalgam of different creatures that has bear arms to have the same flavor text as Werebear.
Yeah, Tom, he did forget the library.
And we do see Scary Terry come into play. In Terrageddon.
Oh, yeah. 1, 2 lands?
He's not very scary. Okay.
Not yet. Not yet.
We were talking about Grey Ogres. I guess this guy tramples, but they should make a donut werebear where it says he has the right to bear claws. He exercises right to bear claws or something like that.
It'd be a good unset.
Yeah.
Do you see a smother on Werebear? What's up?
Did you ever listen to Weird Al?
Right over my head in the middle, the picture is Weird Al.
Oh. Oh, I can't tell.
It's the many iterations of him from basically from UHF all the way through the 90s and 2000s as different looks in a cartoon.
I think the only album I'd really listened to like a decent amount was Running with Scissors, and I think that's one where Albuquerque's on. It's like a 10, 12-minute song or something.
Oh
And
yeah.
whenever I hear Bear Claws, I think of that song. So
I hate sauerkraut.
that's all he's really trying to say.
That's right.
All right, we got
I just saved y'all 12 minutes.
yeah. So this Terravor came in. He did not crack his fetch land. Does that mean anything?
Do you want to shuffle with library?
Okay. I guess that's maybe worth more than the point of damage. So here we see Gush getting cast. 2 mana floating. Man, Gush is a sweet card. Especially like when you can I guess this deck doesn't necessarily like take advantage of it. I guess foil is probably the best way that looks like we
Yeah, I'm refreshing.
let me
All right, gotta mute
Yep.
him here.
as the James just did a refresh, so had to adjust some things there. So I was saying it's not like this deck like really abuses like the card Gush. I guess foil is probably like the closest thing, but sometimes it just feels so powerful casting Gush. Here we do see a Dreadnought and then a Vision Charm. So notable that the Vision Charm phases out his. I think Brian kind of has enough mana that he'd be able to pay the extra 3 for the defense grid even on his turn in response to the Vision Charm. But all right, we got a Sylvan Library activation.
All right. And it's just the Terravor there. So the Dreadnought's lethal, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess this is pretty tricky for Brian. That was there one. How many times did land tax trigger in this game? Was it just the first one?
It was at least once.
Yeah. I think it was just once. So
Yeah, Vision Charm plus Defense Grid does seem pretty good. I mean, Brian's got a fair amount of mana though, so if he draws into the swords, he can still do something during James's turn. We got a seal here, maybe?
a meddling
Meddling
mage.
Mage. You just named Vision Charm.
Yeah, it's either that or foil. I mean, because at this spot you need to have like Swords to Polishers,
foil.
right?
But James
Okay.
just has one card in his hand, right?
No, he just gushed. Got it.
But he played a Dreadnought and a Vision Charm and an island.
Did
Oh,
he-
okay, he has more. I didn't see that wad of cards over there on the left. Yeah, okay. So it's foil. Nice, Aaron. I bet that was a good show.
Wait.
Was it swords counter?
Yeah, I think
That's
so.
game.
Yep.
Woo! Okay. Wow. He did have the foil and a boomerang as well. A little quicker.
All right. So let's listen to the players. Maybe we can get a little insight on their take on the match.
Like you've been playing a stifle on your turn, you know what I mean?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, meddling mage is very good against me.
Yeah. No, the first game, I after you played the Dreadnought, I drew meddling mage. I was like, nice.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit of a blocker.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, do I smother this werebear? But I'm like, this is how I'm gonna die. It's like you're gonna, because otherwise I smother the Terravor and then you're kind of coming in. But It's interesting. I think it's a tough board because I mean I'm on the draw there too, so I get rid of a lot of the ramp in a daze, but I think I have to kind of bring in the things that work there.
Bring in the what?
The things that are just helpful. Like a null's a no-brainer, but smother I need, and boomerang I need as well. And the meddling mages, I just worry so much about them.
Yeah, you do get a little overloaded for sure.
Yeah. Are we supposed to unmute them? No. Okay, not yet at least.
Probably at some point. Yeah, I am. But yeah, no, the Armageddon, your curve's too low, so they're out. The plagues are uber bad. I just took out an extra werebearer. There's probably something better I could have taken out, but I don't know. I kind of wanted the card selection from Sylvan Library.
Of course, yeah. I mean, you need it. It's like turn 1 or turn 2 Sylvan is like necessary, especially if you have to find like 2 or 3 answers.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like Meddling Mage should be, since you don't have white with like swords, Meddling Mage could theoretically go to distance. So
yeah. And boarding with both these decks is tough. It's like they're very tight builds. Like sure, there's some kind of like obvious ones, but it's tough. I think they're like unmute whenever. We're just listening to your shitty takes on your matchup.
Okay. Let me change my phone. Give me 1 second.
and by shitty takes, I'm referring to myself, of course.
Give me a second here.
Yeah. What's up, Mike?
Hey there.
Hey.
No, you guys did a good job of just talking about kind of the match, so it was interesting to listen in. Yeah, I guess I don't know if especially game 1, I kind of felt like Brian had enough interaction and that meddling mage would just be really problematic. So I kind of liked Brian's odds in game 1, and then even like the second and third, I felt like he has enough cards to deal with certain things that he still could, not that he's necessarily advantaged, but still felt like he could win the sideboard games too. But the Dreadnoughts came down quick after like a duress or whatnot, and after like the one answer that you had in your hand got stripped out of the way, then you didn't have enough time, because obviously a 12-12 kills you pretty quick. But
yeah, no, totally. The I was saying before we went live with this conversation, the game 1, once he had the Dreadnought in play, I drew the Meddling Mage, so that was perfect timing there. But yeah, I mean, I made definitely a mistake in game 2 where I was supposed to crack Aura Silence main phase on my turn, so I had to eat 12 so that way I don't just lose to Stifle on his turn. But yeah, he had his Gush was insane. He drew really well, and even though I have answers, it's not a free win by any means. The Dreadnought's a very scary deck.
Was the Aura Silence, was it Vision Charmed or was it Stifled?
Actually, that's a great. I can't remember.
I stifled the first time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you did have the option of, because at first I wasn't sure if you were saying like I'll take 12 and prevent him from potentially having a second one right away. But yeah, and then I guess, but for some reason I thought it was because we talked about we were playing around if he had another Stifle or Vision Charm, but then if it was in play on your turn, you could have just used it right away. But yeah,
I think so. That's how I remember it. But I think,
and I didn't at the time. But I think that if we're getting to late game scenarios, I should just be scooping. I think it's really tough. I mean, I think that game 2 is a late game scenario where I got very lucky. Like again, Gush is ridiculous, but it opened up, an extra island in my hand. I did have a foil in my hand for when he named other than a boomerang, but also, when he named the meddling mage. But I also had a counterspell and a boomerang. So I had options there, which again, very lucky about. Especially off the Gush, I did draw the Vision Charm, but I wanted to force the issue on the Gush just because, again, getting to late game, you're about to get Scroll Rack online, you're drawing more cards. It's just kind of inevitable that I'm going to lose at that point, especially when I was on the draw, which is tough keeping kind of a one-lander, but I had the 2 Lotus Petals, so it gave me the options, right? I could get the Duress out, I could get the turn 1 on a Null. I was worried about Seal of Cleansing. It's just an absolute nuisance of a card for me. Seal of Removal, but yeah.
Yeah, that's why I've named Stifle in game 1 when I was in desperation mode, because I was like, I just have to top deck one of my enchantments that kills your guy or bounces him. So I'm like, that's the only I'm like, that's the one you have the most copies of. Like, if you have foil or counterspell, you got me, you know. But
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys caught it, but meddling mage is just really tough for me to deal with, and that's why what I'm boarding in is 4 cards to try to deal with it.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, because that deck, if it's going turn 1 or turn 2 meddling mage against me, and it's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, you got Limdol's Vault and you got 1 boomerang, and then other than that, you're like,
Yep.
I guess I'm dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
My
It's just
mesmeric
like,
fiends are gonna.
yeah, you hope he blocks. I don't know. You just go to scoop phase at that point, but yeah. But yeah, I guess good draws helped me out on that one for sure. I was worried that I mean I was telling Brian when I don't know between one of the breaks I should not have banned elves. I should have probably banned Terrageddon or maybe Sly. I don't like the Sly matchup for actually a lot of my decks. Aaron Dix, if you're listening, but wish he is. So probably in retrospect, I maybe am playing elves in that matchup. Obviously, it worked out for me there, but I don't know. I was just like. Yesterday, I was just like, I don't want to play against elves, and then today, I'm like, what did I do? Why did I cursed myself?
Yeah.
And then it only gave me one option that I had to play because my other deck is not great against Sly either. It's just a worse version of Sly.
Sure.
in the
Yeah.
matchup.
I can see that. That was the one thing that I was thinking is that you'd probably be a little bit afraid to bring Sly because if you didn't ban elves, you'd be like, okay, I could bring Sly, but then you're either banning Terrageddon or his Sly deck, and if he doesn't pick elves, then maybe it's a little trickier because I think your Sly takes a little more damage from its sources and maybe is a little bit slower. But yeah, so I could see how that was a worry. But did you have any input of your thought process, Brian, for your bans or the deck you picked?
Yeah, it was so. I think Star Spangled Slaughter is probably the worst deck for me of the 3 that I chose for the showdown. Lightning Bolt, Swords, and Fire and Ice, 4 of each is like pretty nasty from the 1 toughness guys and 2 of my decks. And the whole like Portent Predict package is like a kind of a nightmare, I think, for Terrageddon, since Enlightened Tutor and scroll racking is so important. So I saw that James registered that, and I honestly didn't even look at the other 2 that closely. I was like, that one definitely has to go. But yeah, once the bans came through and I saw that James banned elves, I was surprised because I figured I was going to play whatever non-elves deck he left me because his sideboards were prepared for elves, or even his 5C burn deck has like 4 Fire and Ice, right? So I wasn't like excited to play that deck. So then, actually the fact that James banned elves, I did really have to think about it a lot because there is this interesting gambit of like, I do want to play Sly if he plays his Sly deck, but I would rather have Terrageddon if he plays Dreadnought because I have like swords and like the seals that I can tutor for. But the 5C Sly deck seems really annoying for Terrageddon, so it was actually really interesting getting ready for tonight. I figured like, if this 5C Sly deck couldn't find a way to deal with like Zornorb, I might be able to hang in there. So that's why I was like, all right, let me just lock in Terrageddon. But I don't even know how true that would be depending on your draw for that. So I wasn't sure what to expect tonight. I knew it was going to be interesting regardless.
Yeah, cool. I think that makes sense. Yeah, I think obviously I didn't have a lot of time, or sometimes I do. I guess it depends on because if for the people at home, the players message me privately like which deck they're banning, and so sometimes I'll try and play along at home and predict what's going to happen. But sometimes I'll tell them what is banned, and they almost immediately have an answer. But so sometimes I am. Obviously, I just know the answer before I can think about it, but I think this one I kind of did think, and I came to the conclusion I think that Terrageddon is probably what I would have went with. It felt like either it had a reasonable matchup against both the available decks for James, and I think James is a little bit afraid to have the Sly versus Sly mirror because I think his list is at a disadvantage. But it's an interesting cat and mouse game, I think, whenever you have it, because there are certain times you're like, okay, I have one where I'm slightly advantaged and one where I'm slightly disadvantaged, but then also my opponent has the same thing, so it's kind of which one do you think that they're going to pick. But real quick, does anyone have any questions for the players? I do want to thank Ryan's it's always it's a lot harder to read names because I just don't know where to break up the syllable. I don't know if it's Ryan's Ala Gaming or Ryan Sala Gaming. Maybe it's the latter, but thank you
Either way, thanks.
for the subscription. So appreciate the support. But
Keeping
I
the
just got
lights
my
on.
I just got my 13-month anniversary of my sub today. I was very
Nice.
proud. Yeah.
yeah.
Hell
Very
yeah.
nice.
New
Very
sub
nice.
badge there.
Oh, I don't know.
You gotta bust out those emotes.
Yeah.
That,
Oh no, I gotta
Mike's
get
got.
fancy now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Awesome. Well, thanks for playing, guys. It was a little quicker than the first match, but
Yeah.
still very interesting to watch. Like definitely on the edge of our seats, because obviously, Brian, if you get into the late game, you're sitting very pretty, right? And so there's always that, is there going to be another Dreadnought right around the corner or not kind of feel to these matchups whenever you watch Stiflenought. And I think both times it was right there on the, maybe not game one, but definitely game two. We were right there on that precipice of you potentially getting into some outs and taking control of the game.
Yeah, totally. No, that turn one dress was brutal. Game one, I really needed that.
Yeah.
And tutor to get cooking. Yeah.
Alas,
The best play in pre-modern.
Damn
Yeah.
you, Duress.
Yeah.
That's
Spoiling
true.
my enlightened tutor decks since I started playing pre-modern.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys, for playing. Congratulations, James, and better luck next week, Brian. But there's still a lot of time left for you to build up your record, so don't count yourself out in any manner. But we'll see you guys next week then.
All right.
Awesome.
See you guys
Thank
next
you,
week.
guys.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Yep, you too. Congratulations, James.
All right. Well,
Thanks.
Well,
See you,
the
bud.
schedule. Let me update this with the proper one that will show what we have upcoming. Let's see here, and we can see what we have coming up. All right, here we go. So you can see on Tuesday next week, our first starting match will be between Ben and Aaron, and then our late night match will be James against Jared. So let's see. We saw Ben tonight. So his three decks are the Sly, the Elves, and the Rebel stacks deck that we saw. And then Aaron has Sly, Elves, and Esper Stiflenought. And then James has the 5-color Sly, the blue-black Stiflenought that we saw, and the Star Spangled Slaughter, while Jared has Goblins,
Draco Blast and Terrageddon.
Yes. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I look forward to those matches. I want to thank everyone who was able to tune in, and thank you for the subscriptions and the follows. I want to thank our sponsor, CardSphere, for supporting us this season. If you're not familiar with what CardSphere does, they're a website that helps facilitate trading, buying, and selling Magic cards, so paper Magic cards. So it's a way for you to trade your paper cards, and it doesn't have to be a one-to-one trade. You're able to trade to someone, get the credit, and then use that credit for someone else's cards. So it really opens up trading opportunities, because a lot of times if the person you're looking at doesn't have exactly what you need, that's fine. You'll find it from someone else. So really cool service. I encourage you to check them out. Is there anything you want to add, Flint, before we call it a night?
As usual, and especially since we didn't get as long of an intermission, I just would say let's plug the community a little bit. So you're Premodern, want to learn more about it, join the Premodern Facebook group, join the Premodern Online Play Facebook group, join the Premodern Discard, listen to podcasts like the Premodcast or All Things Considered. Check out other streams that broadcast Premodern like 90s MTG. And what's Anders? Is it Might As Well Watch? Is that technically it, or is it OS Curd Ape?
I always get them mixed up. The
I think it's OS Curd Ape.
OS Curd Ape is Twitch, and I think Might As Well Watch is
YouTube.
YouTube.
And Mike here, Cloud Goat Ranger, has his own YouTube channel as well. So there's plenty of content on there that Mike has done over the years. I've done a little bit with him, but he's a powerhouse. He's a machine. So there's plenty on there to watch and catch up on if you're fiending for more Premodern. And just thanks again to everyone for watching and engaging in the chat. Makes it a lot more worthwhile.
Yeah. All right. So with that, I will just say goodnight to everyone, and we hope to see you on Tuesday for our third episode of the Premodern Showdown series. Until next time, take care.
Night, everybody.